Hey guys, Wilkin Tang here. Just wanted to kick off the year with a simple video about some of my favorite photographers that I'm following. You know, when I looked at the landscape of videos about this subject, it seems like many of them cover the same historically significant and well-known photographers like Gary Winogrand, Saul Leiter, Sebastião Salgado, and often I think the advice boils down to saying that you need to pick up their books and appreciate their work that way. And I think that creates a bit of a barrier. I do understand that I love books. I collect photo books all the time, but it's really expensive. They're heavy objects. And so today I'm going to cover some contemporary photographers whose work I really like. And I think that creates some unique benefits because you're able to see new work as it comes out on Instagram or on their website and kind of track their career, track their progress. Whereas when you look back to the past, I think it kind of distorts our view and we see these people as having always been great, always work great, and just kind of have a very static view of them. So with that being said, I want to start off with our first photographer today, who is Jan Chen. She's a photographer who splits her time between Taiwan and Tokyo. So I think Harajuku fashion, I'll try to put something on the screen as an example, strongly shaped how my entire generation viewed Japan. The depictions of Tokyo just made it look like a whole other planet in these fashion magazines from that era. And with Jan's work, I get to kind of revisit that feeling of awe and curiosity. Across her portfolio, we have people wearing crazy, colorful, multi-layered outfits that scream back to the rebellious vibe of being a teenager and just aching to be different. As far as the hard details of how she takes her images or what I would guess, it looks like she's using an 11mm fisheye lens, as I believe she's also said in a comment, and it creates a playfully distorted view of the world with a little bit of a surrealist vibe. People are always making fun, crazy expressions, and I think she uses a lot of direct flash to kind of emphasize that and add a bit of a, an elevated touch to it. So overall, the feeling that I get when I look at her work is a touch of nostalgia to that time when I was a teenager and wondering what it would be like to travel to Japan and all that curiosity. And luckily I've gotten to since then. So for photographer number 2, she's simply known as Chikashi, and I also found her on Instagram. I'll put her handle on the screen, but it's _Chika__photo. When I followed the link on her page, it took me to a website for a project or a collective of which she belongs called Ye Demography, of which the Ye means house in this context, demo meaning although or even though, and graphy being short for photography. Whenever I looked at the about page to kind of get some ideas about what the collective is and what it does, the explanation is that I believe it grew out of the pandemic and stay-at-home orders. So even though we're at home, we're being artistic and coping. The frame lines on their logo kind of focused on as quotes, but they also are open-ended, kind of signifying the open-ended nature of the project and hoping to take photography well into the future. I believe they have tutorials, featured photographers, different guides and blogs and columns, so definitely worth checking out. If you look at Chikashi's page on Ye Demography, it has the following. Live in the moment. I take photos because I want to preserve the passing of light, the changing of seasons, the irreplaceable time I spent with others, and proof that I am alive. And I like film cameras. It's worth mentioning that I had to use Google Translate. I'm not particularly fluent or knowledgeable about Japanese, so just want to put that out there. If you know more about her or know her personally and that doesn't sound right, feel free to let me know. So overall, if I had to analyze or summarize her body of work, and what I really like about it is that it has a really loose, candid feel to it, and people always look like they're very relaxed and like they're having fun and hanging out with a friend. You know, people are eating, they're drinking, they're kind of looking like they're getting ready to pose but not doing a big fashion pose, and that makes me feel like I'm looking at a roll of film from a friend that always brings a camera with them everywhere they go, rather than, I guess, something that's overly staged or complicated. And as far as technical details, she shoots film, so you see the beautiful highlight roll-off that you would expect from that. Compositions, lots of really beautiful detail shots of people's faces, hands, feet, other objects, as well as wide environmental portraits. And one of my favorite things, of course, is that from reading captions and her looking at her reels, that she uses the Nikon F3, which is one of my favorite cameras that I also have. So photographer number 3 is Miyu or Kayu. I couldn't quite verify which one she prefers to go by. Bit of a language barrier, so research is difficult. Also, coincidentally, she's a member of Yiga Demography as well. And her Instagram bio reads the following: weekend photographer. I love blue and sparkle, the sea, youth, and girls. So as you could probably guess, the sea and the sky feature heavily in her work. So looking across all of Miyu or Kayu's work, I think it's characterized by the way that she's able to delicately tame harsh sunlight in order to create dreamlike images of girls, couples, bottles, and other objects, especially the sea itself. And I think her namesake sparkle comes from the way that she's able to capture the light reflecting off of reflective surfaces, such as on cameras or glass bottles. And I'm not sure if this is strictly from using sparkle filters all the time, or if it's also some chromatic aberration from using vintage glass. But overall, the photos have a really dreamlike quality, and the fact that it's always at the beach kind of adds a really nice touch to everything. So really love her work. Want you to check that out as well. Photographer number 4 is Kenneth Chung, or KS Duty Photography. As with the others, I'll put his Instagram handle on the screen here. And I think with this photographer, things kind of pivot from the more natural and candid feel of the ones I previously mentioned into the more traditional fine art approach to photography. His website reads the following: deliciously minimalistic aesthetic with inspiration from nature, architecture, and austerity and perspective. With Kenneth's work, the way that light, shapes, and colors come together in ordinary places to make extraordinary compositions is really inspiring. For me, it makes me question myself every time I do anything, whether I take a photo, how it could have been improved, what composition was I missing that I could have seen, could I have taken a step back, taken a step to the right, walked back, walked forward, squatted down low and taken a different perspective on things, just to really find that extraordinary composition that might have escaped me if I had just kind of done things the standard way. Light and other patterns cut into his images, giving our eyes a nice path along which to move, but they can also do other things like create a nice frame that contains the subject or model in many of his photos. So just really interesting photos to look at and think about and apply to the way that we visualize the world and everything that we try to make when we go out there. So that's the final one, guys. Those are 4 of the favorite photographers that I have that I'm following right now. Let me know who you're following down in the comments. Thanks so much. Should have another video out pretty soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.